My name is Vera Caldwell. I'm 32 years old, and for most of my adult life, I believe that being patient, grounded, and low maintenance made me a good partner. It didn't. It just made me convenient. 8 months ago, a single smirk, 3 seconds long, ended a 6-year relationship faster than any screaming match ever could. I run a custom renovation and finish work business in the Midwest. Not glamorous, not Instagram pretty, real work. Sawdust under my nails, calluses I never bother hiding. I started the company 5 years ago after realizing I was better at building things than begging for approval. Cabinets, trim, full remodels when the budget allows, honest work. Work that stands when you step back and look at it. I was proud of that life. I met Ethan, my boyfriend, at a friend's wedding when I was 26. He was the charming one. Pressed shirt, effortless smile. The kind of man who could walk into a room and make it feel lighter without trying. I was there because the venue's contractor had bailed last minute and someone needed to fix a collapsing arbor with zip ties and prayer. Ethan watched me solve a problem instead of panicking. He told me later that's when he noticed me. Our first date? I showed up in work boots with drywall dust still in my hair. He didn't care. Said it was refreshing. Said I felt real. I liked that he admired what I built instead of trying to compete with it. The first few years were solid. We bought a house together, renovated it room by room on weekends. I handled the tools. He handled paint palettes and playlists. We had routines, complaints over dinner, inside jokes, shared exhaustion. Then Ethan got promoted. And suddenly, it was like someone handed him a new script and forgot to give me a copy. Girls' nights became weekly, then bi-weekly, then just constant. Office happy hours stretched into midnight dinners. Brunch became an all-day performance. I didn't mind at first. I wasn't jealous. I had my own life. Gym friends, work crews, quiet nights that didn't need validation. But Ethan didn't just get busier. He got performative. 2 hours to get ready for casual events, carefully staged photos, captions about taking up space and not shrinking for anyone. He started flirting in public, not crossing lines, just brushing them, then accusing me of being insecure if I noticed. I wasn't insecure. I was paying attention. The breaking point came at Tyler's birthday party in late March. Backyard setup, grill smoking, people we'd known for years. Nothing fancy. Ethan vanished into the crowd within 5 minutes of arriving. I was helping Tyler with his smoker, because some men can build decks but shouldn't be trusted with meat, when I looked up and saw Ethan across the yard. His hand was on a woman's shoulder. Not accidental, not friendly. Intentional. She was younger, tight dress, laughing too loud. His body angled away from the group, toward her. And then, like he wanted me to see, it happened. Our eyes met, and he smirked. Not embarrassed, not guilty, amused. Like I was the punchline. I set my drink down and walked across the yard calmly. No rush, no scene, just clarity. We're leaving, I said. He laughed lightly. Relax, Vera. I'm just having fun. It's Tyler's birthday, I replied, not your audition. His smile tightened. I'm leaving in 60 seconds, I continued. You can come with me or find your own ride. I didn't wait. I drove home alone. That walk across the yard was the first time I chose myself without explaining why. I didn't know it yet, but it was the first step toward the cleanest ending of my life. Ethan came home about 25 minutes after I did. I didn't look out the window. I didn't pace. I didn't rehearse speeches in my head like I used to. I stood at the kitchen sink, washing the smoke smell off my hands, staring at the dark glass, like it could tell me what kind of person stays calm while her relationship cracks in half. The front door opened. Then the sound of his shoes, too polished for a backyard, too deliberate for a man who claimed it was just fun. He set his keys down hard enough to make a point. Okay, he said, like he was starting a business meeting. I pushed it tonight. I know I did. I kept my back to him. You didn't push it. He exhaled sharply. Vera, you performed, I corrected. The word landed clean, like a board cut perfectly square. Different thing entirely. There was a pause, the kind where someone decides whether to apologize or argue. He chose the faster route. Fine, he said, voice softer. I performed. I got carried away. I wanted to feel noticed, attractive, and I went too far. He stepped closer. I'm sorry. I turned off the faucet and dried my hands slowly, like I had all night to respond. Tell me that tomorrow morning. His brow furrowed. What? Midnight apologies are cheap, I said, finally facing him. They're paid in panic. I want to see what your remorse looks like when you've slept and the party isn't watching. Something flashed across his face. Irritation, maybe, or fear. He masked it quickly, forcing a nod like a man who wanted this conversation wrapped in plastic before it could get messy. Okay, he said, we'll talk in the morning. We went to bed like strangers sharing a mortgage. He stayed on his side, I stayed on mine. The ceiling fan turned in slow circles, and every rotation felt like another loop of the same question I'd been asking for months. When did I become something he could risk? Morning came anyway. I woke up at 6 out of habit, made coffee, made eggs, toast, the same routine that used to feel like stability, and now felt like me clinging to structure because emotions were unreliable. Ethan appeared around 6:30 wearing one of my old t-shirts, hair messier than usual, an intentional choice. He knew how to look harmless, small, sorry. He slid onto the stool at the island like he belonged there by default. I set his plate down without saying good morning. He waited, eyes on me, careful. I meant what I said last night, he started. I really am sorry. I took a sip of coffee and let it sit in my mouth for a second before swallowing. Okay. His shoulders loosened, just a fraction, as if okay meant forgiveness. It didn't. Here's how things are going to work for a while, I said. His eyebrows rose. Work? Rules, I clarified. Structure, boundaries. Call them whatever makes you comfortable. His expression tightened with something that tried to be a smile. That sounds intense. It's called respect. I leaned forward slightly, not aggressive, just present. First, I said, we're taking a pause on couples' social events. His eyes widened. What does that mean? It means you handle your calendar. I handle mine. No more parties where I'm your quiet prop while you collect attention like it's oxygen. That's extreme, he said carefully. It's protective. He opened his mouth, then closed it. I kept going before he could steer the conversation into technicalities and loopholes. Second, I said, we're separating discretionary spending. The joint account covers mortgage, utilities, groceries. Your personal extras aren't my tab anymore. Mine aren't yours. He stared at me like I'd slapped him. You're punishing me. No, I said, calm. I'm removing access. His jaw clenched. He wasn't used to that phrasing. He was used to emotional conversations where he could soothe me with a kiss and a promise and the illusion of change. Third, I continued, we're not going camping with Tyler and Sophie next weekend. He blinked, almost offended. Why would you cancel that? Because I'm not spending an entire weekend pretending everything is fine when it isn't. He pushed his plate slightly away. So, because I flirted a little at a party, now I lose my social life and my money and my plans. I watched him. Really watched him. The way he said my instead of our. The way he framed consequences as cruelty. It wasn't flirting, I said. It was humiliation. His eyes narrowed. You're being dramatic. I'm being done playing dumb. Silence. The kitchen smelled like coffee and eggs, and something scorched underneath it, like the slow burn of resentment finally meeting oxygen. He leaned back, crossing his arms. What else? That tone. Like I was a manager delivering feedback. Last thing, I said. No more jokes about me to your friends. He scoffed. Oh my God, Vera, am I on probation now? If you want to talk about our relationship, I said, talk to me. Not Megan, not your coworkers, not a group chat. Me. So I'm not allowed to have friends? He snapped. You can have all the friends you want, I replied. Just stop using them as an audience. He shook his head, half laughing like I was being ridiculous. But his eyes were calculating, measuring how much of this was real, how far he could push. Finally, he said, fine. The word was tight, controlled, like he was agreeing under protest. And that should have made me feel relieved. Instead, something cold settled into my chest. Because fine wasn't accountability. It was strategy. Work became my refuge that day. At the shop, things make sense. Measurements are either right or wrong. Wood doesn't gaslight you. A cut is clean or it isn't. There's honesty in building something, because the flaws show. My foreman, Trevor, didn't pry. He just watched me work with an intensity that usually meant I was avoiding thinking about something. Around noon, Ethan showed up with a paper bag from the deli 3 blocks away. My exact order. Turkey and avocado on wheat. No mayo. Extra pickles. He set it down on my workbench like he was placing an offering on an altar. I brought you lunch, he said. Trevor glanced up, caught my eye, and very smoothly found a reason to step outside with a stack of 2x4s. Smart man. I can feed myself, I said, but my stomach betrayed me by growling as I opened the bag. Ethan smiled, gentle, practiced. I know you can. I just wanted to do something nice. He started tidying little things on my bench, straightening a tape measure, aligning a pencil, cleaning dust that didn't need cleaning. A performance. A new one. I meant what I said this morning, he continued. I'm going to prove I can be better. You'll have opportunities, I said. Dinner Friday? He asked quickly, like he'd been holding it in. Just the two of us. No phones, no distractions. I'll cook that pasta you like. I should have said no, but relationships don't break all at once. They fracture, hairline cracks. The part of you that still remembers the good times keeps trying to glue things back together, even while your hands shake. Home is fine, I said. Keep it simple. His face brightened like he'd won. Perfect. I'll make it special. He kissed my cheek before leaving. That kiss didn't feel like love. It felt like branding. When his car pulled away, Trevor came back inside and waited until he was sure Ethan was gone. Then he said casually, without looking up from his clipboard, last week, when the crew was over at your house helping with the fence. My hands paused mid-measure. Yeah, I asked. Trevor hesitated. Ethan made a joke to the guys. The air in my throat tightened. What kind of joke? Trevor kept his tone neutral, professional, careful. He said your leash must be pretty long if you were working that late on a Friday. I didn't move, didn't blink. I just stared at the board in front of me like the grain lines suddenly mattered more than my breathing. He said that? I asked quietly. Trevor nodded. Wasn't malicious, not exactly, but it was weird. Guys laughed because they didn't know what else to do. I swallowed. The humiliation from the party resurfaced, except this time it wasn't strangers in a backyard. It was my own crew. Men I paid, men I respected, men who saw me as their boss. And Ethan had reduced me to a joke about control. A leash. I forced a slow inhale. Thanks for telling me. Trevor nodded once. Just thought you should know. After he walked away, I stood there in the sawdust and the sunlight and realized something brutal. Ethan didn't just disrespect me when he was carried away. He disrespected me when it was convenient, when it got him laughs, when it made him feel bigger. That afternoon, I did something that should have happened months ago. I opened a separate checking account at a different bank, changed my direct deposit starting next pay period, switched my gas card to my personal account, updated auto pay on my truck insurance. Not dramatic, not secretive, just logistics. The kind of boring adult decisions that become weapons when you finally stop pretending love is enough. From the bank parking lot, I texted Ethan. Heads up. I separated discretionary spending like we discussed. Household stays joint. Personal goes individual. We'll review in a month. He replied within 30 seconds. A thumbs up emoji. Then a heart. Then, totally understand. Proud of you for being so organized about it. I stared at the screen. That was the first major red flag. Because in 6 years, Ethan had never once complimented me for being organized. He used to call me rigid, too structured, boring. Now he was proud? That wasn't growth. That was adaptation. That evening, around 5, my phone rang. Ethan. Hey, he said, voice light. So Megan invited me to a housewarming thing tonight across town. Tonight's totally empty on my calendar. You mind if I go? I gripped the phone a little tighter, not because I was angry, because I could hear the test embedded in the question. He wasn't asking permission. He was checking how far the boundary stretched. Do whatever you want, I said, keeping my tone neutral. I'm heading to Jason's garage to help him rebuild a transmission. I'll be late too. He sounded relieved. Okay, cool. So we're good. We're clear, I corrected. He laughed like it was the same thing. Right, clear. Love you. He hung up. I stared at my workbench for a long moment, and for the first time, I wondered if Ethan wasn't changing at all, if he was just learning a cleaner way to keep doing the same thing. Later that night, while my hands were covered in grease and Jason's radio played classic rock too quietly to drown out thoughts, my phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. Home by Tenaki. Promise. Love you. I typed back, be safe, and set my phone face down, because promise means nothing to someone who thinks respect is optional. And I was starting to feel, deep in my bones, that Ethan didn't fear losing me. He feared losing the version of me that stayed. 3 weeks passed. On the surface, things looked stable. Not warm, not intimate, but operational. Like a ceasefire where both sides were tired and pretending it meant peace. Ethan came home when he said he would. He cooked dinner once, asked about my day in a way that sounded rehearsed but adequate. He stopped making jokes about me in public, at least where I could hear them. And that was the problem. Everything he did felt measured, like he was following instructions, not changing behavior. I wanted to believe we'd turned a corner, that the boundaries had done what they were supposed to do. Reset respect, force reflection, rebuild something sturdier than charm. That hope was my mistake. It was a Thursday night in mid-April. I was at the shop late, finishing trim on a custom bookshelf for a client who'd already paid a deposit and expected perfection. The wood grain had fought me all day, and I refused to rush the last cuts. Some things are ruined forever if you force them. Around 7:30 p.m., my phone buzzed on the workbench. Ethan, going out with some girls from work. Don't wait up. Normal enough. I wiped my hands and typed back. Me. Sounds good. Have fun. Be safe. An hour and a half later, another buzz. Ethan. Staying out later than I thought. Don't call me. Probably won't hear it anyway. The phrasing gave me pause. Not my phone will be on silent. Not I might not answer. Just don't call me. Still, I let it go. People get careless with words. I'd been giving him the benefit of the doubt for months. One more time wouldn't kill me. Then at 9:43 p.m., my phone lit up again. This time, the message didn't blink away when I glanced at it. It sat there. Solid, intentional, impossible to misread. Ethan, I'm not your property, Vera. I'll be late. Don't call. I stared at the screen. Read it once. Twice. A third time. Slowly. Like maybe the words would rearrange themselves into something less final if I looked hard enough. They didn't. Something in my chest went completely cold. Not hot, not angry. Clear. Like the moment you realize a structure is unsalvageable, not because of one crack, but because the foundation was never poured correctly to begin with. I didn't cry. I didn't pace. I didn't call anyone. I set my phone down on the workbench and leaned both hands against the wood, breathing in the familiar smell of sawdust and oil. Property. That word told me everything. Because no one who respects you feels the need to declare independence from something you never tried to own. I picked up my phone and typed back. No drafts, no hesitation. Me, you're absolutely right. I'm not your owner, and I'm not your partner anymore. Don't come home tonight. I hit send. Then I turned my phone face down and went back to sanding the bookshelf. 10 minutes later, my phone started vibrating like it was possessed. Call after call after call. I didn't look at the screen at first, just let it buzz against the wood. When I finally checked, there were 27 missed calls in under 15 minutes. Voicemails stacking faster than I could count. Texts flooding in. Vera, what do you mean? Answer your phone right now. This isn't funny. Please. I didn't mean it like that. You can't be serious. I'm sorry. I switched the phone to silent. Not because I was angry, because the conversation was already over. The power sander was louder than his panic, and I preferred it that way. By the time I finished the bookshelf around 11 p.m., every decision that mattered had already been made. I wasn't reacting. I was executing. There's a massive difference between ending something in emotion and ending it in clarity. This was the second one. Friday morning, 8:00 a.m. Sharp. I made my first call. Richard, I said when my lawyer answered, I need an appointment today. Personal matter, separation. He paused. Today? Yes. I have 3 o'clock. I'll be there. Second call, a locksmith. I need all my locks changed today, I said. Every single one. How soon? 2 p.m. I can do 2. Book it. Third stop, the bank. I opened a brand new account at a completely different institution, transferred exactly half of our joint savings. Not a dollar more, not a dollar less. Changed my direct deposit, moved my emergency fund, updated my insurance beneficiaries, closed the joint credit card. Clean, mathematical, fair. I called my mother next. She deserved to hear it from me before the gossip reached her. Mom, I said, Ethan and I are done. Separation papers are being filed today. There was a long pause. You sound calm, she said carefully. I am. That worries me more than if you were screaming. I almost smiled. This isn't a reaction, it's a decision. Another pause, then softly. Do you need anything? No, I just wanted you to know. At noon, I started packing Ethan's essentials. Not everything, just what he needed immediately. Clothes, toiletries, laptop, chargers, the expensive hair products he ordered online. I left his watch collection and personal gifts untouched. I'm not a thief. 4 boxes, neatly labeled, stacked in the living room like a quiet statement. At exactly 2 p.m., the locksmith arrived. He worked efficiently. Front door, back door, side gate, garage, even the shop entrance. When he handed me the new keys, he asked, Trouble at home? Was trouble, I said. Now it's geometry. He blinked. Geometry? Clean lines, I explained. No curves. He laughed once, uncertain. Good luck. By 3 o'clock p.m., I was sitting in my lawyer's office filling out preliminary separation paperwork without hesitation. Name, address, date of relationship, assets, debts. No second guessing, no bargaining. On the way home, I stopped for coffee and sent Ethan one single email from a new address I'd created just for this. Your essential belongings are boxed and available for pickup. Saturday, 10 o'clock a.m. to noon or Sunday, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Reply only to this email for logistics. Do not call my phone. Do not come to the house outside these windows. Then I blocked his number. My phone still lit up all evening. Blocked calls don't stop attempts, but I didn't answer a single one. Around 8 p.m., Sophie texted, Vera, are you home? Ethan's calling me freaking out. Please call me back. I replied, I'm fine. I made a decision. I'll explain later. Not tonight. That was the last explanation I gave anyone. Because when someone tells you, in plain language, that they don't see you as a partner, the only honest response is to stop acting like one. The quiet after someone leaves is different when you choose it. It doesn't echo. It doesn't ache. It settles. By Saturday morning, my house felt unfamiliar in the best way, like I'd just finished a renovation and everything was finally mine again. No tension humming in the walls. No careful listening for footsteps. Just space. At 9:55 a.m., a pickup truck pulled into my driveway. I already knew who it was. Ethan's father, Mark, stepped out. Retired firefighter. Broad shoulders. The kind of man who wastes no words and never asks questions he doesn't want the answers to. Ethan stayed in the truck, sunglasses on, staring straight ahead, not once looking at the house. Mark met me at the porch and nodded toward the boxes. This all of it? He asked. Everything essential, I said. There's more in the garage. Tools he bought, a blender, some framed prints. If I missed anything important, he can email me. Mark inhaled like he wanted to say something. Defend his son, maybe. Or explain him. I spoke before he could. Sir, I respect you, I said calmly. But I'm not discussing your son with you. I'll help carry boxes. That's all I'm offering. He studied my face for a long moment, then nodded once. Fair. We loaded the truck in silence. Ethan never moved. Never flinched. Never looked. When the last box was secured, Mark extended his hand. Good luck to you. I shook it firmly. You too. The truck pulled away without drama. And just like that, 6 years exited my driveway without a single shouted word. The fallout came quietly. At first, Ethan emailed twice that afternoon. Long messages. Emotional. Regret heavy. I replied only to logistics. Pickup times. Inventory confirmations. Nothing else. Then the calls started, from unfamiliar numbers. Blocked. Work phone. Blocked. Friends' phones. Blocked. Blocking doesn't stop someone from trying. It just stops you from participating. By Monday, the tone shifted. The emails changed from apology to nostalgia. From nostalgia to bargaining. From bargaining to accusation. I didn't respond. 6 weeks later, the papers came back stamped and final. No ceremony, no tears. Just signatures. The house stayed with me. I'd paid the down payment. Every mortgage payment had come from my business account. The math was clean. Savings split exactly 50-50. No kids, no pets, no shared ventures. Just habits. And habits, it turns out, are harder to untangle than assets, but at least they don't require lawyers. I threw myself into work. Not to avoid grief, but to anchor myself. I started going to the gym at 5 every morning. Not for revenge, for rhythm. Wednesdays became dinner nights with friends who didn't ask invasive questions. Saturdays turned into project days, building a new workbench, refinishing the deck, reorganizing the garage until every tool had a place. The order felt like healing. Dating came cautiously. Coffee with a nurse who laughed without needing an audience. Dinner with an architect who insisted on paying her half and never apologized for ambition. A hike with a teacher who hated small talk and brought actual trail maps. Nothing stuck yet. And that was fine. Ethan, meanwhile, stayed loud. Through other people. Megan cornered me once at the hardware store, eyeing my cart like it held answers. So you're really done? She asked. I was done the night he sent that text, I said. He didn't mean it the way it sounded. He typed it, then sent it. She frowned. You're colder than I expected. I'm warmer to myself than I used to be. That ended the conversation. By the end of summer, Tyler and Sophie hosted another backyard barbecue. Smaller this time. No performances, no cameras, just food and stories that didn't require villains. Halfway through, Sophie leaned toward me. You actually okay? She asked. Better, I said honestly. Do you think you'll ever talk to him again? I already did, I replied. I finished every sentence that mattered. Driving home with the windows down, I felt something unfamiliar and steady. Peace. Not excitement, not relief. Ownership. My phone was quiet. My house was exactly where I'd left it. 2 pillows on the bed, but only one side held weight. And for the first time in years, that felt like freedom, not absence. Life didn't get louder after Ethan left. It got quieter. Not the empty kind of quiet that makes you question your choices at night, but the kind that lets your thoughts finish their sentences without interruption. The first thing I noticed was how much energy I'd been spending managing someone else's moods, their boredom, their need to be seen, their constant orbiting around validation that never lasted long enough to satisfy them. Without that drain, days felt longer, fuller. I didn't rush to fill the silence. I let it exist. I still heard about Ethan occasionally. You can't erase 6 years from a shared social network overnight. Tyler mentioned, carefully, that Ethan had moved into a rented townhouse across the river. New development, new crowd, new version of himself already loading. Apparently, his social media looked busy, always somewhere, always with someone, always chasing a vibe that required proof. That wasn't my analysis. That was just what it looked like from a distance I no longer tried to cross. Megan, through a long and unnecessary chain of people, let it slip that Ethan asked about me sometimes. Was I seeing anyone serious? Did I ever mention him? Did I seem happy? The answers were maybe, absolutely never, completely. The thing people don't expect, especially men like Ethan, is that silence can be an answer, a complete one. Months passed. My routine settled into something solid. Gym before sunrise. Work that challenged me without consuming me. Projects chosen intentionally. People invited into my space because they added calm, not chaos. I stopped explaining myself. That was the biggest shift. I didn't justify my boundaries, didn't defend my decisions, didn't soften my truth to make it easier for other people to swallow. I learned something important in the aftermath, something no one had ever said to me directly. You can end something politely, you can disengage without cruelty, and you can still be completely, unapologetically done. Ethan hadn't lost me because of one text message. He lost me because that message revealed something he'd been saying all along, just quieter. That my presence was optional, that my dignity was negotiable, that respect was something he'd perform when it benefited him. When he texted me, "I'm not your property," I heard the clearest sentence of my life. Not because of what he said, but because of what it freed me from needing to explain. I didn't argue. I didn't chase. I didn't beg him to see my value. I agreed. And then I removed myself from the equation entirely. Sometimes the strongest boundary you'll ever draw isn't for the other person at all. It's for yourself. Mine was simple. I won't audition for affection in my own home. I won't accept public disrespect followed by private apologies. I won't carry the emotional weight of 2 people alone. When Ethan told me I wasn't his property, I believed him. And I stopped being his audience. Door closed. Locks changed. Papers signed. Life resumed quietly, steadily, on my terms.